Hello, this is Donald Trump from Mr. Cohn. Thank you so much.
Donald who?
1, 2, 3, 4!
Roy Cohn, nice to meet you.
You, Roy Cohn, you're brutal.
Guilty as charged.
How do you always win?
There's rules. The first rule is attack, attack, attack.
It's going to be the finest building in the city, maybe the country, in the world.
Rule 2, admit nothing, deny everything.
There's never been anything like this, of this magnitude, this quality. Ooh, cheese balls over here.
What are you doing?
You want one?
No, it looks totally disgusting.
Cheese ball.
Hello there. Have you fallen into an open manhole recently? Do you find yourself in the company of strangers? Well, then you might very well be in the feature underground. As always, my name is Hunter Lanier. I am with you once again on your rectangle of light, this time to discuss the upcoming release, October 11th, which is the Friday as of this recording, the upcoming release of The Apprentice, directed by Ali Abbasi and starring Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong. First things first, I know this movie brings with it a lot of baggage, and I would like to promptly lose that baggage in the feature underground airport as we take a red eye to a thoughtful discussion. Full disclosure, I wasn't really interested in watching this movie, and I probably wouldn't have if they hadn't have sent it to me instead of making me drive into the city of Houston to see it, which is a miserable drive. Now, I wasn't initially interested in watching this movie because in the same way that I wouldn't want to watch a puff piece on someone, I don't really want to watch a whatever the opposite of puff piece is. Let's say poke piece, because you're deflating rather than puffing. Let's say poke piece. So puff piece, poke piece, both of these things are essentially the same in my mind in that they put simplistic motives before the story, before the characters, before the dialogue. The story, the characters, the dialogue, it's all in service to an ulterior motive, something that is simplistic, something that is artistically unworthy. Story, characters, dialogue, I don't believe they should ever be in service to anything other than each other. In other words, great movies should be a closed loop. Now that you know where I'm coming from, I am pleased to report that The Apprentice is actually a more nuanced drama than you might think. That is until the third act, where the movie succumbs to a lot of its baser instincts. Since this movie is based on a real person and a really polarizing person who is still an active part of our lives, I do want to reiterate something that I said in my review of Ridley Scott's Napoleon. I don't care about telling the literal truth in movies. I don't care about historical accuracy in movies. Historians have their very own section in your local bookstore if you want to learn about real people and real events. If you find yourself in a movie theater with the presumption of literal truth, you are in the wrong place. That said, I do think movies have an obligation to be true in every other sense of the word. The emotions should be honest, and the ideas should be tactile. I should be able to pull the ideas apart and put them back together to figure out how they work. So that's a long way of me saying that I'm not holding The Apprentice's historical accuracy or inaccuracy against it. I'm reviewing the movie and the movie alone as if Donald Trump and Roy Cohn were the early morning caffeine-induced creations of your local screenwriter. And in this case, that screenwriter is Gabriel Sherman, writer of Independence Day Resurgence. I'll also say that if you hate the real life Donald Trump and hating someone else makes you forget about your own problems, you will find more hate fuel in this movie. If you, on the other hand, love Donald Trump and you just want to rub the magic lamp on his head until he fixes all of your problems, you probably won't like this movie. If you're a movie fan who just wants to talk about movies, I apologize for this preamble. It's over. let's get into it. The axis on which The Apprentice revolves is the relationship between Donald Trump and Roy Cohn. Let loose into the wolves' den of 70s New York City, and the wolves' den within the wolves' den, which is the upper crust of 70s New York City, filled with ruthless plutocrats and libertines. The sensitive Donald Trump doesn't quite know where he fits in. He's got money, but he doesn't know what to do with it. Girls are interested in him, but they lose interest halfway through the date. He's a few economic classes above Benjamin Braddock, but he's in that Benjamin Braddock, floating in a pool, listening to Simon and Garfunkel, not knowing where to go with his life. He's in that state of young manitude. All of that is true until he meets Roy Cohn, which happens in the first 2 minutes of the movie. Cohn takes Trump under his big, dark, featherless wing. Cohn is everything Trump isn't. He's confident, assertive, he gets what he wants, he's influential, and he gets what he wants through this 1-2 punch of gutter wisdom and brute force. He becomes the Ratso Rizzo to Trump's Joe Buck.
Terrific shirt.
Are you speaking to me?
Well, I was just admiring that colossal shirt. I mean, that is one hell of a shirt. I bet you paid a pretty price for it, am I right?
Oh, I ain't cheap.
Yeah, birds.
I mean, I say it's all right shirt.
I like birds.
I don't like to have a lot of, cheap stuff on my back.
Sure.
And to quote yet another great movie, Cohn is a cookie full of arsenic. He is an unpleasant but highly effective individual. Now, this isn't the most unique relationship you'll ever find at the movie theater. The timid young man is taught by the older, more established man to survive in a cutthroat environment. Then the young man surpasses the older man, adopting all of his faults as well as the wisdom. But that relationship still mostly works in this movie, thanks to Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong. Sebastian Stan finds a sweet spot in his performance that stops short of impression, but still encompasses all of the quirks and speech patterns that are very recognizable to all of us by this point. Strong gives one of my favorite performances of the year because at a time when actors are holding a lot back, opting for subtlety, hoping the director and the editor extract the performance, Strong is playing a capital C character. He's leaving nothing on the table. He is not leaving his performance in anyone's hands. He plays Cohn like a prehistoric bird. His head is constantly bobbing back and forth like it's some kind of attack signal. He's very much out of that old school kill or be killed era of New York City, where if you're not big and strong, if you're not good with a gun, you have to be good with words, and words become your weapon. Where this aspect of the movie, this relationship, could have worked a little better is that Trump meets Cohn, like I said, at the very beginning of the movie. So you don't get a real sense of what Trump's life is like without Cohn in it. You don't get a sense of what is the hole that Cohn is filling. There are a handful of scenes where you see Trump with his family, his father, his mother, his brother, and you get the sense that his father's heart is made out of sandpaper and his brother has a drinking problem, but there's nothing really substantive. You know that Cohn is filling some kind of hole in Trump's life, but you don't get a real sense of what that is. The initial thought is that he's just a father figure, but it seems like it's more than that. Or at least you'd hope it's more than that, because father figure replacement isn't very interesting. And you get the feeling that the movie is on its way to exploring what this hole is, but then it completely veers off track in the third act. It becomes the movie that I was worried the movie would be, which is a lot of eye winking to the audience, a lot of references to current events, a lot of picking of the poisonous apples that are low-hanging fruit. There's even a forced interaction where Trump asks a woman where she's from. She says Georgia, and he says, "I love that state." There's a terrible extended scene where Roger Stone shows Trump the Make America Great Again slogan, and it's the equivalent of the music biopic scene where, a young Little Richard is ordering ice cream from the ice cream man, and the ice cream man hands him Tutti Frutti, and Little Richard goes, "Tutti Frutti." There's a lot of this self-aware biopic chum that gets thrown to the audience as you get closer to the movie. And it goes from being the sweet smell of success to Adam McKay's Vice. And as great as I think Stan and Strong are in the movie, the third act also undercuts their efforts as Trump becomes more Cohn-like and Cohn becomes more young Trump-like. With very little runway, the two essentially switch places. Trump is all of a sudden a maniacal real estate tycoon, and Cohn is all of a sudden a doe-eyed puppy. It almost feels like the screenwriter had the ending in mind, had the destination of the Trump character in mind, wrote the first two acts of the movie, and then the third act didn't fit anymore, the ending didn't fit, but he just kept it anyway. I've referenced the sweet smell of success a few times in this review, and it's because The Apprentice exists in that lineage. It's about a big fish educating a smaller big fish in the ways of manipulating high society, set against the backdrop of a seedy New York City. But The Apprentice has none of that movie's caustic swagger, and it comes nowhere near that level of dialogue, which is among the best ever written. And to the extent that this script allows Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong to explore that relationship in a authentic, character-focused, and not agenda-focused way. And when I say agenda, I'm not solely talking about political agendas. I'm talking about the agenda of the screenwriter's idea of where these characters should end up. To the extent that Strong and Stan are able to explore it, this movie is good. But what really stops the movie from going from good to great is the shoehorned third act, which doesn't organically fit the rest of the movie, and that it becomes increasingly self-aware and eye-winking in a very annoying way. You do start to get the feeling in the third act that this movie isn't so concerned with the characters it's written and is more concerned with the audience's connection with the real person. Before I go, I do want to touch on the mixing of politics and art, because this is a touchy subject. Personally, I do not like when the two meet. Now, that isn't because I don't like it when a celebrity or a movie shares an opinion that's contrary to mine. I don't mind that at all. You should expose yourself to opinions that are contrary to your own. You should whet your own intellect against the stone of contrary opinions. Rather, I don't like it because I think art exists on such a higher plane than politics that I don't like to see it lower itself. And when I say politics, I'm not talking about, your Thomas Sowells and your Noam Chomskys. I'm talking about current event politics, cable news, reality show politics, and social media idea compression politics. So when I go to a Megalopolis screening and I get to watch a Q&A with Francis Ford Coppola, Robert De Niro, and Spike Lee, and Robert De Niro starts talking about Trump, my eyes glaze over, because with a career as amazing as De Niro's, with as many classic movies as he's been involved in, with as many legends as he's worked with, the last thing I want to hear him talk about is the intellectual slap fight of modern politics. I think when you're young and impressionable, you see adults interested in politics, and so you start to associate being an intelligent adult with talking about politics. But then once you start paying attention to politics, I feel like you should quickly realize that there is nothing Kamala Harris or Newt Gingrich can say that will be as rewarding or nutrient-rich in an idea sense than watching the entire filmography of Orson Welles or Sidney Lumet. Well, those were all my thoughts. So get down there in the comments and let me know what your thoughts are on my thoughts. Once you see the movie, come back, leave your opinion. I'll be interested to hear it. Also, if you don't know, Feature Underground is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so if you just want to listen to me, you can go there. Like the video, but only if you liked it. Don't give me any pity likes, unless you really want to. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. If you have subscribed, Maybe tell a friend or two, tell your uncle, tell your dentist, tell someone. With that, I just have the gentle reminder that every day underground is a good day.
We're friends, Harvey. We go as far back as when you were a fresh kid congressman, don't we?
Why is it that everything you say sounds like a threat?
Maybe it's a mannerism, because I don't threaten friends. But why furnish your enemies with ammunition? You're a family man, Harvey, and someday, God willing, you may want to be president. And here you are, out in the open, where any hep person knows that this one is toting that one around for you. Are we kids or what? Next time you come up, you might join me on my TV show.
Thanks, JJ, for what I consider sound advice.
Go thou and sin no more. Senator?
Good night, Mr. Falcone.